I'm very pleased that Mayor Jerry Sanders could join us and Sempra Executive VP Debbie Reed. And I also want to give a special welcome to Charlie and Settle, our region. So thanks for coming tonight. Tonight's event, our Clean Tech Showcase, is made possible by Nobby Martin's intellectual property law. So thank you very much for sponsoring tonight's event. Our Clean Tech Innovation and Commercialization Program is supported by the Sempra Energy Foundation, by the Kauffman Foundation, and by the Kaplan Family Trust. And this Clean Tech Innovation and Commercialization Program is a university industry government partnership, which is managed here out of our Van Liebig Center, but in close cooperation with San Diego State University, the City of San Diego, and Clean Tech San Diego. The role of a research university is to provide the human and the intellectual capital to our society. And the goal of this Clean Tech Innovation and Commercialization Program is to foster growth of San Diego's renewable energy and clean technology industry by stimulating this intellectual and human resource to innovate in clean technologies with a clear focus on commercialization of inventions from our regional universities, San Diego State and UC San Diego. Let me just tell you a little bit about how our program and the process here works for our Clean Tech Innovation and Commercialization Program. It is built around a business mentoring model that has been developed over the last 10 years by our Van Liebig Center, where we invite researchers and faculty innovators to submit proposals for commercialization of their ideas and to take their ideas from the research lab to the marketplace. We engage expert external advisory panels to provide feedback and select the most promising innovations. The winning innovation team receives a $50,000 proof of concept grant and one year of business mentoring from our Van Liebig advisors. With the 2008 and now the 2010 Clean Tech Challenges, we have reviewed 31 technologies in the clean tech space, and we worked with over 40 innovators. 3 projects received commercialization grants in 2008 and 3 projects this year. And you will hear more from our innovators later in the program. The Van Liebig tech transfer process was first started about 10 years ago to serve the faculty in the Jacobs School of Engineering. A few years ago, it was recognized by the Kauffman Foundation as a national model for how to encourage the transfer of discoveries from the university to society. In the meantime, we have expanded our outreach first across the UCSD campus, and now with the Clean Tech Challenge, and just last week we announced a Wireless Healthcare Challenge. We expand the Van Liebig model locally to the San Diego research community, and then regionally across Southern California, and we are also in discussions to extend it to the greater Baja California mega region. Also, this model is highly attractive to federal government who wants to see their investment in research benefit society, and to our corporate partners. There is still very little support for this type of program because there's always the risk and uncertainty around the commercial potential of new ideas and new technologies. On the other hand, numerous great disruptive technologies can be generated by our talented students and faculty. So we are very grateful to our sponsors who have stepped up to make this activity possible, and we invite our partners in industry and our friends of the university to become engaged in this program and to support the great work that the teams are doing. Let me also quickly share with you some exciting news in case you haven't heard it yet. Now, after our second year of Clean Tech Innovation Challenge, we have just learned that the Department of Energy has awarded $1 million to continue the program in San Diego and across Southern California. This grant allows us to expand our work with San Diego State University and the city, and include partnerships with the Rady School of Management and Dean Bob Sullivan, and Connect and CEO Dwayne Roth, who is here tonight. This DOE grant will pave the way for the model to be replicated in other research communities across the nation. Now let me turn to the official program here for tonight. We couldn't have started this regional program without the strong support of San Diego Mayor Jerry Sanders. Mayor Sanders is the driving force behind the city's commitment to developing the clean tech industry sector. In fact, San Diego is now counted among the top 10 global clean tech clusters in 2010 rankings by Sustainable World Capital. So please help me welcome Mayor Sanders.
Well, that was very nice, but I have to tell you, we've got some very smart staff and some very good advisors and some people who go out of their way to make me look smart every day. That $1 million spent by the Department of Energy is probably the best investment they'll make this entire year. And when you look at what all of you are doing and look at what all of you are working on, you're literally revolutionizing things in the United States and around the globe right now. And it's all of you and your innovation and your entrepreneurship that really are making that huge difference. And when I look out and see the people here, the mix of mentors, the mix of young people, the mix of people who have worked with you, and I look in all the different organizations, it's absolutely amazing to me. But that's the reason San Diego has emerged as one of the top clean tech clusters globally. It's been programs like the Von Lippig program that fosters this kind of innovation, and it's going to help San Diego continue to excel. And it's these types of programs that promote collaboration between the universities and between business and between the other think tanks around that are really different in San Diego than any other place in the country. Clean tech and what you're doing has a potential to create literally thousands of new jobs, both blue collar and white collar. And I think that's exciting for San Diego and for our economy. A number of clean tech companies since all of you got going, and Lisa, I have to give you a lot of credit for this also. And San Diego County's grown from 170 in 2007 to over 750 today. Now I know Dwayne Roth is here, and Dwayne gave me information that it's not just clean tech, but it's high tech, and it's all the other clusters here. In San Diego, every single day of the week, 365 days a year, a new startup is started in San Diego. And that means that some of the startups that many of you have started in here are adding to that number, and that creates new jobs, creates new interest, and it creates new energy in this field. The companies in clean tech are specialized in a wide variety of technologies, from renewable energy to biofuels to energy efficient technology solutions. And we've had the luck of working with some of our solar panel manufacturers. Silicon and Kyocera have both set up shop to manufacture in San Diego. We also have talked to a German company and a Swedish company who are very interested in being here. And the reason they come is because of all of you. They come because of the universities. They come because of the clean tech cluster and the collaboration and the cooperation in this field here. They come because of the tremendous brain power that San Diego has. So the Von Lippig Center deserves high praise for coming up with a way to harness the brain power in a way that can create future jobs in this region. And when I look at the students, you think about the opportunity that this presents for them to come up with an idea. All of them have the opportunity to revolutionize things, and then to actually get funding behind that, along with mentorship and support and a structure around it. So I want to thank the Von Lippig Center. I want to thank all of you for this really exciting night, and for all you future entrepreneurs and serial entrepreneurs, and there are many of you here. And for the investors, thank you very much. You're creating jobs in San Diego and putting us on the map. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sanders. Our innovation and commercialization program is made possible by the generous support and sponsorship from Sempra Energy Foundation. And Debbie Reed is here tonight representing Sempra Energy. She's the chair of the San Diego Economic Development Corporation. She's a member of my Council of Advisors at the Jacobs School of Engineering. And Debbie is a strong proponent of innovation in renewable energy. So Debbie.
Thank you very much. I would have to say, in talking to a few of the students, I was thinking, I graduated from engineering school about 32 years ago. And I think that was about 30 years before I wish I would have, because all the stuff that you guys are doing now is so much more exciting than what some of us that have been out in business for some time had to deal with when we were in engineering school. And I think the thing that's really exciting is that you have the social sciences and the hard sciences of engineering coming together in a way that we are creating a very different and a very new future. And so being part of that is really exciting. I see that in my job at Sempra Energy, and I see that as chair of the San Diego Regional EDC. We were at an EDC meeting today and setting some goals for our region in the future, and we really do believe that this region can be the #1 place in the world for clean tech. We have a great start, and we have the most terrific universities. We have great partnerships between business and education working on this, and there is no reason that this mega region that we have cannot be #1. And so I think we should all be very focused on that. The other thing I would say is what we talked about is that this is something we all agree on, that oftentimes in San Diego you run into things where people can't agree. But I think people can really rally around being #1 in clean tech and the innovation and jobs that come with that. So you guys are all part of something that really will mean a difference in the future. We do have some great competitive advantages. If we look at our mega region, we are one of the top 10 mega regions in the world in terms of graduating star scientists, and that many of you would fall into that category. In patent activity, one of the top 10 regions in the world in patents, and one of the top 10 regions of the world in terms of economic activity. And then we have the benefit of the access to the affordable manufacturing that was mentioned by the mayor. And you know, we just have it all. And shame on us if we don't use that to the best extent possible and become #1 in this area. You know, I just left the job as president and CEO of SDG&E, and so I was really got to get involved in some of the smart grid initiatives that some of you are working on. I'm particularly interested in how do you make the hydrogen from the water to power a fuel cell, and I'd like whoever was working on that to explain it to me, because that's very interesting in terms of innovation. We've been working very closely with the university and this program on some of the new biofuels such as algae, and think that this region is really far ahead in that. And so it's just such a pleasure to see something that everyone can rally around, and we can really have business support it, the local governments support it, and the educational institutions support it, and then organizations like with Lisa and Clean Tech and Dwayne and Connect. It's just wonderful. What I would say to all of you is that a few years ago I served on the Genentech board. And those of you that are developing products, you are so important, because you can start a business, and you can start a business with one product, but soon it becomes what's in the pipeline. And you can't continue a business and you can't grow if you don't have a robust pipeline. And so all of you are kind of creating the next generation of the products and services that will fill that pipeline and allow us not only to become #1 in clean tech, but to stay #1 in clean tech. So thank you very much.
This program is a great example of the power of partnership amongst our regional universities. And so I'm very pleased to welcome now from San Diego State University, Tom Scott, the Vice President for Research and Dean of Graduate Affairs. So, Tom, please.
We're here to celebrate the innovative technologies of collaborations between the faculties at UCSD and SDSU. In order to put that in context, let me offer a bit of a historical perspective. The Master Plan for Higher Education in California is 50 years old this year, not coincidentally the same age as UCSD. And in its abstracted form, the Master Plan for Higher Education assigned to the University of California system the mission of using its research to envision the future of California. It assigned to the California State University system the teaching mission of creating the educated workforce that would manifest that vision, and to the community college system the opportunity to offer alternative pathways into the four-year college system. That master plan has been extraordinarily successful for half a century now. Most recently, the most recent reinforcement of that success came from the National Research Council review of doctoral and research programs that named University of California, Berkeley, UCSD, and UCLA in that order as the first, second, and third ranking public institutions in the United States. At the same time, so the research is being carried out. At the same time, the California State University system, despite some of the budget travails that all of us have experienced in higher education over the last few years, not that others out of higher education haven't, is still, the CSU system is by far the largest system of higher education in the United States, generating something like 80 to 90,000 baccalaureate and master's degrees each year to indeed carry out that vision that's being created. So the system as it was envisioned is a successful one. It's also one that is still very clearly demarcated between the UCs and the CSUs. If you take the average amount of research funding as an index of research activity in the 9 UCs, not counting Merced because they're not really going yet in that regard, and compare it to the average amount of research funding at the other 22 campuses of the CSU, excluding San Diego State, the ratio of funding between the average UC and the average CSU is 83 to 1. So the research is being carried out very much on the UC system. The training is happening quite successfully and extensively in the CSU system. Within that context, San Diego State University is fulfilling its mission as a CSU, as the largest of the CSUs, or second largest. We go back and forth between SDSU and Long Beach. We are generating something like 10,000 undergraduate and master's degrees per year, or at least we did last year. It'll be a little smaller in the next couple of years. And at the same time, we've become the second most sought after, if seeking can be defined by number of applications for admission, the second most sought after university in the United States, with over 62,000 applications for admission this year. So the role of taking in the California population, training and turning them out to carry out the visions of the future of California is very much intact. But at the same time, San Diego State has assumed a mission of a self-imposed mission of research that is out of the ordinary for the California State University system. We had $151 million in extramural funding this year. We have 19 Ph.D. programs out of the 21 in the whole system, 19 on our campus. And were it not for the University of California at San Diego, we would never have been able to achieve those sorts of heights. If you take the amount of funding that is brought in to do research at San Diego State and combine it with the amount of philanthropy that has come in each year over the last several years, it in fact dwarfs the state allocation to what is still referred to as state by most people in the San Diego region. In fact, the state provides only a very small portion of the budget that San Diego State goes through each year. So the relationship with UCSD has been a critical one. We have partnerships at the PhD level with 5 institutions in California, but the majority of them and the closest ones are certainly between SDSU and UCSD. So it's particularly gratifying to see our faculty engaged in collaborative research, in the sharing of instrumentation. This is my second time to La Jolla today. The first time was to review a joint doctoral program with the Dean of the Graduate Division at UCSD, and it's a very close partnership and a very satisfying one. So we're particularly pleased to see John Love a couple of years ago, Doug Grotjahn today, envisioning the future of California, and we can promise them and others that when that vision is clarified through research, we'll also be there to generate the educated workforce that will bring it to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And just to follow up on what you said, we just finally got 3 additional joint doctoral programs approved between the Jacob School of Engineering and your College of Engineering at San Diego State University. So I'm very pleased with that development too. So our event sponsor tonight is Knobby Martens and Intellectual Property Law, and Knobby Martens is represented by Rose Thiessen. Rose is a partner in Knobby Martens and specializes in patent prosecution for chemical, pharmaceutical, and medical device technologies. Previously, Rose was a chemist at Exxon Research, where she worked in fuels technology. So please help me welcome Rose Thiessen. So Rose, where are you?
Thank you. Knobby Martens is the largest intellectual property law firm here in San Diego, and we've got a very strong clean tech practice. And I just love attending events like this because we get to see the cutting edge technologies, the new and exciting things that our local innovators are coming up with. And we're very proud of the minor role we play in helping get those products out there, those methods out there, the inventions out there and commercialized that will make people's lives better. So I just want to congratulate all the innovators today, and we're looking forward to seeing some really exciting things in the future from all of you. So thank you.
So now we come to the fun part of the evening, namely to hear about the innovations. First, I want to welcome back our 2008 innovators from our first Clean Tech Innovation Challenge. I'm very proud to announce that the $150,000 which we invested in proof of concept seed funds over the last year and a half to our 2008 innovators has already paid off with over $600,000 in new funding coming to San Diego in the form of 2 NSF STTR, Small Business Technology Transfer grants, and in the form of corporate investment. All 3 projects have successfully completed their proof of concept phase and are now in active discussions with corporate and VC investors. So the 2008 innovators were John Love, and I want you just to stand when I call out your name that people see you, because afterwards they want to talk to you, okay? So John is Professor of Chemistry and Biochemistry at San Diego State University, working on improving processes for extracting biodiesel fuel from algae. And he's now partnering with San Diego-based Kent Bioenergy. Professor Qiao from Structural Engineering here at UCSD. Okay. He's working on nanomaterials for converting waste heat to energy. And Professor Paul Yu, Professor of Electrical Engineering here at UCSD. Paul? Okay. So working on a system to collect solar energy and transport through fiber optics to destination before converting it to electricity. So you can talk to our 3 2008 innovators during the showcase and the reception following this program. But now we come to the 2010 innovators. Out of the projects that were submitted, 3 were selected in the end by our distinguished panel of external judges. Let me just introduce the 3, and then I'll ask them to come up one after the other to present their innovations. So the first is Yuvraj Agarwal. He's alumnus of the Jacob School and currently a research scientist in our Computer Science and Engineering department. And he's working on a project called SleepServers to reduce energy consumption of computers. Then we have Stephen Bennett. He's the Executive Director of the Scripps Partnership for Hazards and Environmental Applied Research. He's Director of Business Development for the UCSD Scripps Institution of Oceanography. And his project is EarthRisk technologies to predict severe weather events more than a month ahead of time. Wouldn't that be nice, huh? And then we have Doug Grotjahn. He's Professor of Chemistry and Biochemistry at San Diego State University. And his project is to work on catalysts for making hydrogen from water. So these are our 3 innovators for this year. And with that, I invite them to come up and give their short presentations. So you're up.
Hi, thank you for the introduction, Dean Siebel. My name is Yuvraj, and today I'll be presenting SleepServers, which is basically a mechanism to actually save energy in computers and hopefully make PCs actually greener. That's what everybody's been talking about. So let me just start off with a quick motivation. So everybody knows PCs consume a lot of power, and in fact, if you look at it in computer science, they account for about 25% of our total energy use. So it's staggering. It's not 5%, it's actually a significant amount. And it's also true that despite this fact being true and everybody knowing it, shutdown opportunities are actually very rarely used. And various larger reports, as well as one undertaken by the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, says that 2/3 of office PCs are actually never turned off or put to low power modes, despite the fact that these modes have existed for almost a decade. And this is true even if you look at home settings, where you think that people are actually paying for the energy directly. So it's a very big deal. And we actually went even further, and we measured this at our own building, and we found out that out of about 900 plus desktops in our department, 90% of them are actually never actually powered off, and they're always left on. We all like to believe we're productive, but we're not that productive. so the fact is that there's lots of reasons. It's not just people being lazy and saying, hey, I left work and I didn't turn off my PC. It's actually a lot of legitimate reasons why people don't turn off their PCs. And all of them actually revolve around this idea of enabling this always-on abstraction. You want your PC to be always available, always reachable, for that chance where your administrator wants to patch your machine, or you want to remotely access your data, or you actually want to connect in, or people actually leave active applications running. And this is particularly the case for home cases where people leave Skype logged on, or they leave their peer-to-peer or IM logged on. So all of these are examples of applications that require your PC to be on for that off chance where you actually may need access or data on it. What I'll talk about today is a method which is called SleepServers that will allow reduction of energy consumption for these PCs by on an average 70%, and that translates to about $75,000 in energy savings alone for computer science. I've given you the result first. Now I'll tell you how we can actually get there. So the problem is really rooted in the way PCs are currently designed. If you look at a PC, it's either awake, in which case it's completely active, or it's sleeping, in which case it's completely inactive. What happens for a PC is that a PC uses about 100 watts. So when it's awake, or 1 watt when it's sleeping. So you see a 100x differential in terms of power consumption. However, for all the applications I just talked about, the assumption is that PCs always remain awake. So the dichotomy is your PC will use 100 watts even if it does nothing, versus it could use 1 watt and go to sleep, but it cannot do anything in that state, right? So ideally what you'd like is the best of both worlds, right? You want a PC that can provide the functionality as a fully awake state. However, it consumes power as if it was sleeping. So you get the best of both worlds. And of course, you could always wake up to a fully awake state as and when required when you actually needed to run that heavy jobs. So what we want to do is actually create sort of this hybrid state of operation where PCs are effectively sleep working, right? Wouldn't we all like to do that even when we sleep in the night? So what is our solution? It's called SleepServers. And the key idea in SleepServer is that, let's say you have an enterprise network with lots and lots of host PCs. And I use hosts and PCs interchangeably. You have H1 through H100. Each of them have particular MAC address and IP addresses. These are the addresses that people, machines are identified by. To this enterprise network, you add this magical machine called a SleepServer. And the SleepServer is special in a way that for every host computer H, you have an appropriate image M that has the same MAC address, same IP address as the PC. So you can think of this image as sort of a reduced functionality replica of your original PC, except it does not have all the state. It's extremely small and extremely lightweight, so that I can pack a lot of these images onto the same SleepServer, right? Similarly, you have image M2 for the host H2, which is different and it's similar to what the host H2 is. So the idea is that you can customize each of these images for the particular host that they actually represent. So when the host computer H goes to sleep, it sends a message to the SleepServer. The SleepServer says, okay, I am going to now enable the particular image for your particular PC, and in which case it's M1 in this case. And in this state, image M can basically pretend to be the PC, even though the PC H is actually asleep in this state. So if anybody queries for the IP address saying, are you awake? The image M1 responds as if it's really like responding on behalf of the PC. For things that require the resources of the PC itself, so think about you're trying to remote into your PC, or somebody's trying to call you over voice over IP, you want your PC to be on so that you can actually receive that call. For that, the image would just step away and say, I'm going to transparently wake up the host dynamically, in which case that the image is just disabled. And the third case is even more interesting. For lots of things, such as you're downloading movies or you're downloading content or you're trying to maintain presence over some instant messaging network, for all of these applications, the image can actually pretend to be you continuously. It can maintain presence at IM. It can continue your long-running downloads. Perhaps it can even continue downloading your Netflix movie while your PC is asleep for that state. So basically, the image is what's maintaining the state. And the key idea in our case is that we can actually scale this up extremely well, and we can pack hundreds of images because they're essentially lightweight into a single sleep server, getting almost 2 orders of magnitude energy savings. So, of course, I'm skipping over a lot of detail how all of this works. You can feel free to come and talk to us at the poster session. I can tell you all of the details. But the bottom line that I promised was, I'm going to save a lot of energy, right? So we implemented a dashboard that all the users in our deployment can actually look at to see what their energy use is, because that is like the biggest motivator. People want to see what they actually save and what the effect of their actions are. And this is a chart of the power consumption, and you see this PC was particularly 100 watts till September last year when it wasn't using SleepServer. And the moment I started using SleepServer, you see that the power consumption of this PC cycles between 100 watts to about 2 watts when it's sleeping or in SleepServer mode. So effectively, this translates to about $60 in California price. California prices are particularly low compared to some of the other parts of the country. And this translates to about $60 of energy savings per PC per year. And we've deployed SleepServers across 50 users in the computer science and engineering department. They're all my beta testers, so sometimes they come and complain to me too about things. But the fact is that all of these users use SleepServers every day and see about 70% energy savings. And if you multiply that with all the PCs that we have, that translates to about $60,000 alone in just energy savings. And if you look at a PC that uses the 100 watts, it's effectively like a light bulb generating that much heat. So if you account for the amount of savings of HVAC, well, now you don't have to actually cool the building because of the heat just generated, there's a lot more savings to be had. Now, what are the main advantages of SleepServer? Right now, SleepServer is actually implemented on a commodity machine. The hardware isn't unique in a way. You can implement SleepServer on an existing commodity server. It's cross-platform, so we can support Linux, Windows, and hopefully at some point I'll also write a core for the Mac OS. From an enterprise administrator standpoint, it's actually wonderful because you have a single point of management. They can now put the SleepServer in their data center and they can manage it centrally. And the key part is a software-only addition to existing PCs. Some of the people in our department or in our deployment who are using this, sorry for them, but they're actually using PCs that are about 7 years old. And the point that I'm making with this is even PCs that old can actually use SleepServers without any additional hardware, right? And as I said, depending on the amount of savings, it's a lot of savings, and it's a multiplicative aspect based on how many PCs you actually have. So let me just go over what the potential market of SleepServers might be according to what we see. So there are 6 million firms in the United States, and out of these 6 million firms, 1.5 million firms are actually heavy users of computers, right? And this is a survey that we picked up. And out of these 1.5 million firms, 15,000 firms have actually 500 employees or more, which totals about 22 plus million. And this is just for the United States. So assuming that you need, for 300 users, we need 1 SleepServers, and we charge a nominal licensing fee of $30 per user per year. Remember, we said that we can save you more than $60 just in energy saving alone. So this $30 is what is pretty low. It's like half. You could recuperate the cost within 6 months. This translates to a market size of almost $1 billion. That sounds lots of numbers. The fact is that this is just this only enterprise markets. Remember, we're leaving a lot of the smaller firms on the table. The worldwide PC market is supposed to grow to almost 2 billion by 2014 and 4 billion by 2020. So this is staggering numbers, right? The fact that this becomes even more viable solution is because of companies like SDG&E that actually have energy saving incentive programs that they provide 24 cents a kilowatt hour of incentives for energy saving measures to finance up to 80% of the project. So we should all do this before the incentives go away. So of course, there are things like, there are other competing products, and one of the common ones that people actually know about is called Wake on LAN, that lets you send a special packet and wake up a PC. Turns out that this technology has been around for a decade and nobody uses it. Is because it's the lack of configurability, and most of the time it affects usability, or it gives you only limited energy savings. There's actually even companies called Verdim and 1E, which are the bigger ones, that have a very, pardon me saying it, a very brain-dead way of solving the problem by saying you have fixed schedules for computers. Computers wake up at 8 a.m. and they go to sleep at 6 p.m. and if you want to access them outside, you need to go to lots of hoops to actually wake up your PC. And that's the reason, because there's no other solution that actually offers this seamless network presence, and either of these solutions does not offer this ability to resume downloads and continue them even when your PC is asleep and maintaining network presence, right? So we do a lot more, and we offer flexibility in all use scenarios. We're actually deployment friendly in current enterprise setups. The main part that I want to note is for all of this sleep server setup, I had to go to my enterprise administrator once just to ask him to do a few changes for us. Nothing major, and basically this was supported without actually having to involve them. That is a testament to how easy it is actually to deploy sleep servers. We have a lot more functionality than any of this competitive landscape, and of course we can price that as similarly. The $30 per PC per year was actually lower than what these other companies even charge for this technology. Now, of course, are we done? No. It turns out we have quite a few things. There's a big difference between a product that's between a technology that's in the research space and in the academic environment to what my system administrator might want to deploy on 20,000 PCs, right? And this is where the Von Liebig Center and the Clean Tech grant is absolutely critical, right? We want to use this grant to actually enhance the sleep server implementation beyond the current pilot stage. As I said, we are already at we are at 150 images on a single sleep server, and we want to scale up to almost 500 of them. So the advantage is that if you can support so many hosts on a single sleep server, that's where all your energy savings. The more hosts you can support, the more energy savings you'll have, and you drive down the cost, right? Because you can support 500 users on a single sleep server. We're also developing administrative interfaces based on this grant, and so that enterprise administrators have a plug and play. Add a new host is literally like about 10 seconds to add a new host and support on sleep servers. Again, remember, we only need to install software on each of these, on each of the PCs that are supported on sleep servers. We want to develop graphical user interfaces both on the client side as well as the server side. Everybody likes a little eye candy. You want users to be able to see how much energy they're saving so that it actually affects how they perceive their savings and perhaps even affects other ways in which they can be more green. So we're basically using the grant to actually develop better user interfaces and actually improve the sleep server user experience. And then finally, and most importantly, we have about 20,000 plus PCs on this campus. And I feel like this could be like the biggest deployment for us, and we want to use the Von Liebig Center grant to actually deploy this widely, first across the Jacobs School of Engineering and then across all of UCSD, and we're talking to campus people to see how this could actually be done, and then use all the experience to actually refine our architecture. So it was a big leap to go from 5 PCs to 50 PCs. I think the next biggest leap is from 50 to 5,000. I think that's when we're going to be ready to actually spin it out. And what I want to point out is it's actually essential to address all of these before we take this technology out into a company. You want to solve this at the university setting rather than outside. Yeah. So I can now take your questions. This research is part of our Synergy Lab, which I thought the logo was pretty cool. Hardware, software, and green. Here's our team. Rajesh should be around too, and Thomas is sitting in the front. I want to thank our Von Liebig Center advisor, Tim Ruth, who has been instrumental in actually getting all of this up, and he's been essential in getting all of this presentation ready and has helped us throughout the way.
So I'm going to start a little bit different. This is sort of an odd way to get started, but I was at the movies over the weekend. Has anybody seen A Social Network or The Social Network? Couple of hands. Has anybody heard of Facebook? Yeah, so it's the movie about Facebook. How many of you have heard of Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook? Okay, great. We're in good shape here. At the beginning of the movie, there's a scene where Mark Zuckerberg is talking to his girlfriend. And he's talking to his girlfriend. They're sitting in a bar at Harvard, and they're having a conversation that I thought was quite pertinent to this evening's presentation. So I pulled a piece of it together to walk through with you. Mark says, my friend Eduardo made $300,000 betting on oil futures one summer. His girlfriend Erica says, that must be nice. Wait, he made $300,000 in a summer? Eduardo likes meteorology. But you said it was oil futures. If you can predict the weather, you can predict the price of heating oil. Let's linger on that last line for just a second. If you can predict the weather, you can predict the price of heating oil. Is this Hollywood fiction? Well, if you do a little Googling like I did and you look up Eduardo Saverin, one of the co-founders of Facebook, you'll find that he did indeed make $300,000 from his college dorm room trading heating oil. How did he do it? He knew a little bit about the weather. The weather drives markets, and it really comes down to an issue of resource management. Energy, supply chain, resource, and environmental management are all driven by weather. And the ability to forecast the weather means the ability to better forecast these resources. I'll give you an example. A utility in North Carolina, Duke Power, estimates conservatively that they could save $8 million a year with slightly better weather information, slightly better forecast information, due to better management of their generation facilities in startup and shutdown. And you don't have to broaden your mind too far to think about the other industries that are at play here. It's beyond just the energy industry. Many industries rely on weather information to manage their operations. So flashback to 2008. A team from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography teamed with 3 industry partners to undertake a research project aimed at helping industry better understand spikes in wintertime demand for home heating. We began by defining the most extreme cold events in the Midwest and Northeastern United States. Then we quantified the most common jet stream patterns in wintertime across the entire Northern Hemisphere. Then we linked the two to see if certain jet stream patterns tend to tip their hand or skew the odds or give an indication that the atmosphere is biasing toward the production of a severe cold event. Here's what some of the research output looked like at that time. The output here tells us that when a very strong jet stream ridge develops over Alaska and near the North Pole, the green, blue, and purple colors on the map at the top of this plot, that we should look out, because 60 to 80% of the time following the development of that event, we have historically witnessed a cold outbreak in the Midwest and Northeastern United States, at least 5 days later. And this plot actually shows us that there is some predictability up to 20 days ahead of a severe cold outbreak. In fact, we discovered that certain atmospheric variables can signal a severe cold outbreak up to 30 to 40 days in advance. So that was the end of our research project, and in 2009 we turned over these results to our industry partners. But to be honest and candid with you, we simply overwhelmed them with data. Our industry participants received a 5,000-page almanac of maps, charts, tables, graphs, over 2 gigs worth of data. We were quite pleased. The scientific process was over. We had completed the science, we had discovered new relationships, but our industry partners weren't entirely satisfied. They couldn't figure out how to use a 5,000-page book. So in order to be useful, the data needed to be translated into an analysis routine that industry partners could deploy on site. They needed to be able to use the data and information on an operational basis. This is where we joined forces with a local San Diego company called Digital Telepathy that designs software and is a design firm, who donated some of their effort to put an interface around the data that we had produced on a very small part of it in a proof of concept. This is where the entrepreneurial seed took root. We had users seeking software applications. They were asking about extending the research beyond the Midwest and Northeast United States to cover heat waves as well as cold snaps. UC San Diego could provide the methodology that Scripps and the scientists at Scripps had developed, but scaling and expanding that across multiple regions and through software development was something that the university wasn't able to accomplish. This was the birth idea for a commercial venture to take the research methods from Scripps and build software around them and to scale them to a market application. We started with a vast amount of data produced in the research project that I mentioned before and converted it into a software tool. Then we scaled the research methodology to apply to other geographic regions around the world, testing cold snaps. And right now we're taking a look at whether we can apply the same methodology for heat waves. Our prototype proved to the end users that we could translate discoveries from the university into practical applications. The industry partners became so excited that they nearly demanded that we find a way to do both, research and applications. That's where this group and tonight comes into play. Our industry consortium required a commitment to pursue a new research project at Scripps called Sphere 10, in addition to demanding usable software applications based on the completed work. They wouldn't commit to one unless they could get the whole thing. And the Von Liebig Center and the Clean Tech Grant provided the spark. It allowed us to fund upfront the research for a second set of atmospheric work, which convinced the industry partners that we had the commitment from the university to do more research. Once the industry partners had that commitment, they committed their own capital in contract funding to EarthRisk Technologies to start building applications and to start building software. EarthRisk could then use this revenue to license the IP from UCSD and internally fund the software development. These revenues are also going to allow EarthRisk to give back to the Scripps Institution of Oceanography and continue Sphere 10 on the tail end. The customer contracts proved a viable revenue model for EarthRisk, which then led to outside investment in Series A capital. That money now empowers EarthRisk to scale the initial development and go to market. So I think this demonstrates the maximum leverage for a grant such as this. In our case, truly catalytic. We needed committed research funding in order to secure that private funding. The seed grant allowed us to embark down a path that might otherwise have been quite difficult. So Hollywood fictionalized an actual event. If you can predict the weather, you can predict the price of heating oil. But let me show you an actual line from the nation's second largest producer of natural gas. EarthRisk Technologies expands our forecasting capabilities for energy demand at multiple time horizons. This is a revolutionary approach for forecasting beyond 2 weeks, because Chesapeake knows that if you can predict the weather, you can predict the price of natural gas.
Good evening. I'm very pleased to have a chance to take up the challenge of explaining how our catalysts are going to convert water into its elements, which are hydrogen and oxygen. Oh, yeah. So actually, before I start with the slides, I decided to take up that challenge in something of a spontaneous way. So we all know that sunlight shines on the ocean for years, and about all that happens is perhaps evaporation, right? So water is very stable under, ultraviolet light and other radiation from the sun. What we're proposing to do is to create a catalytic system which will allow sunlight to split water into its elements, hydrogen and oxygen, which can then be saved, stored, and ultimately used in, say, fuel cells. And so you can get an idea of the challenge involved because of the stability, obvious stability of water out in the ocean. Another possible spin-off from our technology would be that we could use some of our catalysts to help make better fuel cells. So what is our technology? As I just gave you a picture there, it's a catalyst which will directly absorb sunlight and split water into its elements. Our innovation here, besides just the catalysts, are catalysts which move protons as part of that process. And in my lab, for several years, we've studied catalysts for other reactions. And using proton transfer technology, we've been able to make those catalysts 1,000 or 10,000 times faster. So the primary uses of the technology would be eventually on a large scale creating a hydrogen refinery. More likely in the nearer time frame, smaller scale uses making widely distributed hydrogen and avoiding the issues of distributing a lot of hydrogen. Well, what's the market need? I guess you can read the slide, but let me put it this way. We use about a cubic mile of oil per year in the United States. Maybe we could avoid using some of that. Hydrogen is a clean fuel. When you burn it or use it in a fuel cell, it doesn't make carbon dioxide. It makes water, hydrogen dioxide. But the problem is the main way of making hydrogen now is using natural gas or some other carbon-containing source, okay, and that makes carbon dioxide. Another method, electrolysis, requires making electricity first and then stable electrodes to do the electrolysis process. So our technology is quite different because it avoids making or using carbon or carbon dioxide entirely. We don't yet have a system for distributing lots of hydrogen. Our technology might be a way to a cost-effective way of making distributed hydrogen. And if we do have hydrogen, then using it in fuel cells requires, again, catalysts. Platinum is a favorite in fuel cell catalysis, but platinum's expensive, and most of it's not in the United States. All right, so a little bit of chemistry. I teach 200 students, so organic, so I think, let me try this. So this is the equation we want to work on, okay? Water plus sunlight energy with the aid of catalysts would turn into the two constituent elements. So we can break this down into two separate half reactions, they're called. If you add these up, you'll get the upper equation there. So this upper reaction is water turning into oxygen and electrons and protons. Another catalyst would take the electrons to reduce protons and make hydrogen. So this first part, this oxygen-forming reaction, is actually the greater challenge. And one of my challenges in explaining why what we're doing is important for making hydrogen is to show you that the oxygen-producing reaction is actually the hard one. And there's a lot of agreement about this being the challenge. Let me just illustrate. Well, for one thing, these two O's have to get together at the right place at the right time to make a bond. They're not together at all here in these two water molecules. They're bouncing around. So there's a lot of challenges involved. And water is very stable. I already illustrated that at the beginning of my talk here. So if we make a successful catalyst, how could we apply it? This diagram's on the poster outside. I probably won't go through this in all the detail here, but sunlight would impinge on this wall here, which would have our catalyst. And this is a cell that has water in it and a membrane that lets protons through, but nothing else. The catalyst would do its job. Our catalyst would do its job here, making oxygen and electrons, which would go out into a wire down to the other side, and the protons that migrate through the membrane would be reduced to making hydrogen. So it's a compartmentalized cell, and oxygen would come out one side, hydrogen the other, and water coming in, as well as sunlight from the left. Okay, so this cell exists, this kind of cell exists, but it's not very efficient. And our idea, or our goal, is to make this part much more efficient. All right, so breaking down this problem, which I hope you can appreciate is a tremendous technological challenge. To do this reaction, we need a catalyst and we need light. Well, if we don't have a catalyst at all, we can have all the light we want and nothing's going to happen. So our focus has been on looking at making catalysts, competent catalysts. And like many people, for the time being, what we're focusing on is using, instead of light, using a chemical reagent to drive the process. One of the big challenges in this area is to avoid something like platinum or iridium, something that's really expensive as a catalyst, and we're going to hopefully be able to use iron and cobalt and other really abundant elements that are cheap. Okay, so what's our work plan? Well, we make things that we put onto metals, and then we verify what's been made. This is actually a synthesis, okay? This is verifying what's being made. That's an NMR machine at San Diego State, and this is a molecular picture, if you will, from X-ray diffraction, so we can actually verify what's going on. Then we test compounds like this as catalysts and also measure some relevant physical properties that are useful for catalyst development. All right, well, I thought I would show you a movie of a catalyst in action. Where's the... Okay, well, that's too bad. Anyway, this is a 30-second movie. I'm actually looking for the cursor. Does anybody see it? I don't see it. Okay, well, it worked a while ago. Anyway, so what happens in the movie? I'll just tell you in words. It's a 30-second movie. So what comes in here is a little bit of catalyst, a pinch of catalyst, so to speak, is added right here, and this is stirring on the stirrer. What you would see within 30 seconds is this yellow, which is the color of the cerium reagent that with which we're driving the reaction. This would be assume kind of a brown color, and little bubbles would come out of here, just like a little head of beer. All right, so that's visible evolution of oxygen. Okay, so what are the barriers to on the path to market? One is making hydrogen on a large scale, distributing it if we have it, because we don't have pipelines at the moment suitable for the purpose. If we do put hydrogen in vehicles, how are we going to drive far enough? And then do we have enough platinum or other metals to make fuel cells on a large scale to do all of this? So we think our technology can help overcome barriers 1, 2, and 3 by making smaller installations to begin with for making hydrogen. And one rough calculation I did is you could probably get away with a household type of unit, something 400 square feet of rooftop area being covered by the sort of cell that I showed you a little bit earlier. All right, so let me summarize. Hydrogen is a clean fuel because it does not produce carbon dioxide, but the ways to make it at present are not clean. So our solution is to use sunlight and water and the kind of catalysts I told you about. Paradoxically, I guess, removing oxygen from water is the greater challenge, so that's what we're tackling first because we think that will be the most impressive for future funding. Nature in photosynthesis actually moves protons, and that's a key component of photosynthesis. So we're going to do the same thing. I would like to thank you, and if you have any questions, please come see me out at the poster. I forgot. I wanted to thank the students in my lab who have worked on this particular project. Also, SDSU Tech Transfer Office, very helpful. And also at Von Liebig, Mike Elkana and Rosabelle. Thank you.
So I'm sure you were just as impressed as I was by these 3 new technologies which were selected in this year's Clean Tech Innovation Challenge. And I can't wait to hear about it a year or 2 from now, what has come out of these great ideas. I would like to invite now Lisa Bicker, the CEO of Cleantech San Diego, to say a few closing words here.
These wonderful technologies coming out of UC San Diego and San Diego State. Congratulations and thank you. 1 in 3 biotech companies was launched by a UC professor. We're seeing many of those same trends right here in San Diego in the clean tech sector. And it's not surprising after what we've just seen. My job at Cleantech San Diego is to help integrate you into our growing ecosystem in the greater San Diego region. And it is a mega region approach that we have to the clean technology sector and building our opportunity here. And I look forward to working closely with you and other innovators here in San Diego. Second point I'd make is to congratulate the Dean and Rosabelle for just an outstanding program. We need more programs like this to help feed our ecosystem here in the greater region. And I'd like to acknowledge Sempra Energy I was involved in some of the early discussions in whether or not this second young program would go forward. It's in its second year. And Sempra Energy could have made a different choice, and they elected to take a risk and fund this promising program. They could have waited a couple years and they chose not to. And I think that it's that kind of commitment that matters here in our region and will help us continue to be a leader. And third, I'd just like to say, while we do have 758 companies today in the greater region, we are just getting started. There is a lot of work to be done, and we'll need to partner in the way that only San Diegans can. And I look forward to working with you to do the real work of building our region into an economic leader around clean technology. Thank you so much for the opportunity to participate.
So this concludes the presentation part of our evening, and I invite you all now to join us for the reception outside, talk to our innovators. We also have, in addition to the 2008 and 2010 innovators and their posters, two of our graduate student posters displayed, the winners from our research expo. So we're working on the next generation of innovators already. So Jason Karp had the best poster of our research expo on micro-optic solar concentrators, and Gaurav Diman had the computer science best poster on energy management in virtualized environments. So thank you all for coming tonight, and enjoy the reception and the discussion with the innovators.